friends, and welcome to episode 79 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast for all things vegan. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to embrace this meaningful decision with fervor and fun. Episodes post every Monday on your favorite podcast app. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Do you love the podcast? Would you get a kick out of hearing a shout out from me on a future episode? How about time to connect virtually with me and other listeners quarterly or monthly? Check out the show notes for the link for more information. If you're a vegan business who would like to sponsor episodes of Did You Bring the Hummus, I'd love to chat. You'll find my contact info in the show notes. Today, I am joined by Dr. Elisa Beth Haransky-Beck of Enlivening Consciousness. Dr. Elisa has been a holistic eye doctor specializing in optometric vision and movement therapy, as well as natural vision improvement since 1987. Elisa has practiced raw living plant-based foodism on and off since 2012, and the spiritual nutrition lifestyle since 2015. One of Elisa's volunteer passions is with the Vegan Spirituality Southwest PA, which she founded in early 2019. She teaches EmbodyVision Yoga on Zoom to elders around the world and is a spiritual nutrition counselor with a master's degree in spiritual nutrition. This is a great conversation around eye health, some surprising connections between eye health and movement, surprising for me anyway, and of course, Elisa's book. Elisa guides us through a brief meditation. We'll warn you ahead of time, so if you're driving, skip it and come back once you're stationary. Hey, Elisa, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's get started. Just dive right in. Tell me about your vegan journey.
My vegan journey started in 2012. You can't see me here because this is all auditory, but I'm tall and I'm thin, and I have always been tall and thin, even when I was born. My mother said I had long fingers and toes. So weight has never been an issue, but I am a healthcare professional, and I wound up at a place called the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. It's now called Hippocrates Wellness. And I wound up there for a 3-week program in 2012. And I ate healthy, but I was kind of a seeker. I've always been a seeker. I want to learn more. I want to know more. And so it was a whole new world for me being there. They served wheatgrass juice. Who had ever even heard of wheatgrass juice? I see you making a face right now. Whoever thought that wheatgrass juice could be a cleanser, an internal body cleanser? You may have never thought of it that way. And I can tell a story later about wheatgrass juice sobering people up if you'd like. But they served sprouts. They had sprouting houses. They served salads, but the first 50% of the salad bar was sprouts, and the other 50% was like your lettuce and your red peppers and your cucumbers. Who had ever seen anything like that? Even somebody like me who eats a lot of salads and did then and still does. So that 3 weeks was just informed. The rest of my life continues to inform me. And I went in there as a carnist. I entered what's now called Hippocrates Wellness, this 3-week program, as eating meat and potatoes. And I'm Jewish, so I never ate pork, but chicken and fish and I didn't eat shellfish very often, but I ate everything that most people do. I didn't have a standard American diet, but I didn't know what veganism was at all on any level. So that's when it started. When I came out 3 weeks after I had gone there, I felt so good that I couldn't even believe it. And at that time I was 50 years young. That was in 2012. And I'm getting younger every day now. I'm not still a raw living foodist, but I tend towards that when I can. And if I lived in a warm climate, I would still be that. But there's a lot that's happened between then and now in my vegan journey, but that is where my vegan journey started. And that's pretty intense because most people don't dive like that. I went in as a carnist and I came out 3 weeks later as a raw living foodist.
Yeah.
Because I realized during that time frame that I didn't learn in optometry school, I didn't learn about health and wellness. I learned about how to prescribe eyeglasses that would compensate for people's visual, and I'm going to go ahead and be bold and say visual disability. And then they needed stronger and stronger lenses, which really could be called drugs. Nobody calls eyeglasses drugs, but I'm here to tell you that yes, they are drugs, because when you put a lens in front of your eye, if it's a minus lens, that because you're nearsighted, then it stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. It really puts you into a higher sense of alertness and awareness. And if you put plus lenses, if you're farsighted and you put plus lenses in front of your eyes in an eyeglass frame or in a contact lens, then it relaxes your system. It stimulates your parasympathetic system. So I didn't know. I mean, all of these pieces started to come together over the decade. It's now 12 years that followed that experience. And so it was a profound experience. Hippocrates Wellness is still around. I really, Brian and Anna Marie Clement are not paying me to say this. Maybe they will one day, but I just encourage anybody, if you have a day, go have lunch there. Just go check out the salad bar. You can walk in off the street and do that. If you want to go on do a program, it's expensive and you have to sign up and everything. But if you live in that area, it's a gem sitting in the middle of all kinds of everything else that we've all been experiencing. Yeah. So I don't know, that was the next thing that was profound in my vegan experience was in 2015, when I landed at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center in Patagonia, Arizona with Dr. Gabriel Cousens. And there I rediscovered my spiritual background, which is Judaism, and I dove deeper in because that's what Gabriel Cousens modeled in his version of the raw living foods lifestyle with a spiritual dimension. At Hippocrates Wellness, they had psychologists on staff, and you'd have group kind of powwows, if you will. But at Tree of Life, it just was a whole nother level of experience. I just went. I thought I was going there for a day for my favorite Jewish holiday, which is called Tu B'Shvat. It's the Jewish holiday of the trees. It's when the almond trees are blooming in the Middle East, in places where there are trees. And I wound up staying there also for 3 weeks for yet another rejuvenation program. The year after that, I came back to Tree of Life, because they were doing a program on diabetes. And I'm an eye doctor. And I thought, wow, I want to hear what Gabriel Cousens has to say about diabetes. So I went back, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was sitting in a room full of his master's degree students. And he gave a whole day on diabetes, a whole continuing education about using the raw living foods lifestyle to reverse diabetes. And he has written a book on that. He was going to write another book. He was going to do a study. And he put one slide up that day on the wall that showed, that talked about diabetic retinopathy, which are the changes that occur in the back of your eyes when you have very severe uncontrolled diabetes, because diabetes can lead to blindness if you're not careful with how you take care of yourself. And he talked about reversing diabetic retinopathy. That is not something that is taught in professional schools, even to this day. This is 2024. This information is out there, and it is not being taught, and it is not being acknowledged. In fact, the opposite is happening. But at the end of that day, I went up to him and I said, Dr. Cousens, who's doing the vision part of your study? And he said, oh, I didn't think I could do that. And I was just, there was this huge, I think that my body exploded. Like there were like the stardust in my body, the light energy of my body just shined more brightly than ever. And out of my mouth came, I can do it. I can do that part of your study because I'm an eye doctor and I know something about raw living food. And I was enrolled in the program 2 days later. Fast forward to 2019. I got my master's degree in February of 2019. And then I was going to write a book on it because I thought this needs to be in book form because this is very important. And I started writing, and then I realized I hired a publishing company. 2019, how many years ago was that?
A few, huh?
I think this is high level math. Okay. I know it's 2024, but in 2019, I was going to publish my book. And it was going to be on the things that I hadn't learned in optometry school, but that were truths that needed to be told. And I started writing, and then I realized I submitted my manuscript. Actually, I had a master's thesis on the range of veganism. I was going to do my thesis on reversing diabetic retinopathy using the raw living foods lifestyle. And that was very exciting. And I talked to a lot of colleagues about it. They were very excited. And then 3 months into the master's program, Dr. Cousins lost the funding. Unfortunately, the funder passed away. And so I pivoted. I was already 3 months into the program, reading 100 books and writing 13 3 to 5 page papers on a variety of topics on spiritual nutrition, how to feed your body, mind, and spirit. And I didn't want to just quit. And so I wound up writing the master's thesis on the range of veganism, from raw living foodism to junk food veganism.
Mm-hmm.
I personally have settled on whole food plant-based for the most part in my eating habits over the past number of years. I prefer raw living foodism. It's not practical. It was 18 degrees Fahrenheit last night where we live outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is warmer inside, and I did do a shot of wheatgrass, today. I meant to do 2 after I took a walk and I came back inside. I didn't really want a shot of wheatgrass. I wanted my warm tea. I wound up submitting this manuscript to the publisher, Balboa Press. And when I got it back from the editor, I looked at what they did, because I'm not a writer. I'm now an author, and you'll find out why soon. But I thought, oh my goodness, this will take me the next 10 years of my life to write a book on, because they had so many ideas of how I should really rework it and redo it and reform. And I thought, whoa, this is not my stronghold here. I'm loaded with ideas and information. I'm good at talking. I'm good at hearing. I'm good at listening. I've been trying to improve my vision throughout my lifetime, and it's getting better and better. That's my specialty. But writing is a chore, and editing is even more of a chore, and producing a book is even more of a chore. I have learned, as I will explain momentarily. So I hired an outside editor, and because what's called the developmental edit, I had already taken advantage of the service from the publisher, and so I needed to do some more editing. She said, Elisa, and then it was 2020. It was January 2020. I went to Washington to present at an optometry conference. Then it was February 2020. And I was supposed to be going, I think, in February or March to California to do another presentation to a group of movement people on the connection between vision and movement. Well, as we know, everything between February and March of 2020 was canceled everywhere in the world. In the meantime, my editor, my newly hired editor, had said to me, why don't you write a quick ebook on nutrition, because people are hungry for how to be healthy, right? And I said, oh, I can do that. And I don't have anything else to do anyway. And so I wrote that quick ebook. And then I had another download, I call it from God at this point, from spirit, however you refer to whatever you think brings us here in this physical form, And that spirit talk said to me, you're an eye doctor. You need to write about that. And you can put the nutrition piece in there and the spirit piece, but you're an eye doctor. And then the editor pointed out to me, Robin Quinn, I'll name her, I think her business is called Word for Word. She's out of LA. She said, okay, lead your book with the vision stuff. And then, you can put all these other pieces in, which is what I did ultimately. So that the nutrition part of my book, I would actually say, see, I let it slip already. Yes, my book. I have a book. It's called Enlivening Consciousness, deepening your journey through vision, movement, nutrition, nature, and spirit. It is a mouthful. I was advised not to use such a long title. I have another vegan story to tell you that'll explain why I kept the title. But in any case, I wrote the book, and I'm very excited about it. It's going to be available by the time this is aired. So it will be available through just a few places to begin with. And this is intentional, very intentional. It will only be available directly through Balboa Press, or it will be available through me if you come to one of my book events, which I'm going to be doing all year through 2024 into the rest of my life probably. Because I've stepped into education and consulting and teaching virtually and in person. It's a passion of mine. I was never trained in it, but my mother was a teacher, my sister was a teacher, and so I got it by osmosis. And I'm excited because this information needs to be shared far and wide with the right people who are motivated to improve their vision naturally, step into plant-based eating without judgment of what you're doing now. I ate meats and chickens and fishes and everything until I was 50. That was only that was in 2012. So do the math. I'm not judging. I used to be judgmental when I first came out 3 weeks later in 2012 as a raw living foodist. I was like, all of a sudden I had this judgmental hat that I never even knew I had. It was like, what are you eating? You're killing the animals and it's disgusting. And I couldn't stand the smell of meat cooking and all this. And I've softened, I've shifted because I realized, who am I? Who am I to judge another person? Each person is here on their own journey. For their own purpose under heaven. And I am not the one to judge them. They are the one to be responsible for themselves. I am an expert, I dare say, in helping you to discover your truth and live in your fullness. And I meet you where you are. I learned that clinically as I'm an optometric vision and movement therapist and spiritual nutrition counselor, one-on-one with, many, 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 many complicated people, adults and children, from age birth to, 104 throughout my career. But it's not my job to heal you. It is your job to what is called, I'm taking a wonderful class from, his name will come to me, Brian Siddhartha Engel, who is by training an osteopath. And I don't even know if he's vegan. I imagine that he is mostly vegan, if not completely. He lives in India, but he's teaching this course. And he talks about, I've taken many of his courses now. He talks about, where is the health? And you're talking to yourself now. Where is the health? And as we surrender, come back to our breath, and get out of our own way, then our health reveals itself. And we are the doctor we've been looking for.
Yeah.
So I'll just pause for a minute. And I'm feeling kind of called to do a little bit of a visualization or a creative kind of healing, just for a couple minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And then I want to talk about something you've touched on a few times. So yeah, let's do this. And then I've got a question for you.
Awesome. So if you're sitting, listening to this, or if you're laying down, come back to your breath. Notice yourself. And if you happen to wear glasses and it's easy, even if your eyes are closed, consider taking your glasses off and just laying them on the desk near you, if that's comfortable for you. And then breathe. Inhaling. Filling your lungs. Exhaling. Notice the natural rhythm of your breath. Perhaps put one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen. Feel your feet on the floor, your sit bones on the chair. Or if you're laying down, notice the surface of your body, the back of your body, the side of your body, or the front of your body that's touching the earth. If you're sitting on a chair, notice the parts of you that are solidly supported by the earth, the ground beneath us. And now visualize, imagine the energy of Mother Earth moving from the crystalline center of the earth up through the soles of your feet, through your ankles, your lower legs, your knees, your thighs, your pelvis, your torso, your fingers, hands, wrists, all the way through your arms and shoulders, through your entire torso, neck, and into your head, your beautiful skull. Imagine the crown at the top of your head opening wide to receive the energy of the cosmos streaming in through your crown. Breathing deeply, noticing your breath filling your lungs, cradling your heart. Notice the natural rhythm of you. And ask yourself the question, where is the health? Allowing, without judgment. Noticing, honoring your eyeballs, your eyelids, every structure inside of your eyes, all the way through your visual pathway, which goes through the middle of your brain and down through your neck and spine to the tip of your tail. Breathing in goodness, grace, gratitude. And exhaling anything that is no longer needed. Taking a few more rounds of breath, noticing your natural rhythm as you release your hands into your lap. Knowing that you can come back to this state of awareness anytime during the day. And it just takes a minute or two. And then when you're ready, if you're ready, hey, you can stay in this state for the rest of the interview, as long as you're not the interviewer. Or you can, open your eyes and listen, or you can keep doing the dishes or whatever it is that you're doing while you like to listen to podcasts. Maybe you're driving. Now, wait, I should have done a disclaimer. the idea is, how do we self-heal? And that's what I model now. So I'll be quiet now and you can ask me a question.
Thank you for that. That was wonderful. Always nice to take a few moments to really tune into ourselves, right? And it actually, I think, really ties into kind of what I wanted to ask you about. You've mentioned a few times about being able to kind of heal ourselves, and that you've been an eye doctor, and this idea about glasses and how people don't really consider that maybe they're like a drug, is what you said. So I wear glasses, right? You can see me. I have glasses on, and in my photos for the podcast, people know I wear glasses. And I'm so curious about this. So my eye doctor that I see now, he is very much a person who he'll say, like, here's what I've found. Here's where I think your prescription is. Do you want me to change it? So when I saw him 2 years ago, he said we could go up a little bit, because I mentioned that I was having trouble seeing while reading, but, and things blurry were kind of far away. And first he said, well, welcome to your 40s. So thanks, doc. But then, so he gave me a prescription that was actually too strong. And when I first put it on, I found, wow, I can see things so far away. It's super, super clear. But now I really can't see anything that's up close to my face. And so he said, well, what we can do is we can back it off a little bit, or honestly, you can go back to the glasses that you're wearing now, which are the glasses that I'm wearing while we're having this conversation. Because what I found was that while I really enjoyed things far away being crisp and clear, it wasn't necessary. And since I've gone back to this lower prescription, I'm finding that even things far away are clearer now. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah. Okay. So now here comes the free advice. So people should know on this podcast that normally I charge people for this sort of information, unless I'm doing some sort of free promotional thing, which I haven't done for like 3 years. So, but no, but you ask a really good question, and I'm thrilled that you're asking it, because obviously what I said, a few minutes ago, you not only thought about it, but you processed it and you connected it to your last eye exam. Not only did you connect it to your last eye exam, but you connected it to your last eyeglass prescription. And not only did you connect it to your last eyeglass prescription, but you went back to the doctor and you said, hey, let me tell you, doc, what's going on.
Yeah.
Now imagine this. Imagine if you had an eye doctor that said, maybe you went to a different eye doctor for this last visit, and that eye doctor said, well, I've always specialized in natural eyesight improvement. And what I would recommend is that you either stick with the glasses that you have now, even though things may not be crystal clear for driving at night, you're still seeing at least 20/40, for example. So 20/40 is kind of the magic number. And this is really important information. This is information that you will internalize. And I'll be grateful that if other people who are listening to this podcast internalize it too. And I'm giving it away freely now, because maybe those people will tell their friends, and those friends will tell the other friends, and they'll say, where did you learn about that? I never heard that before. And it will be so foreign to them that they may find my name and they may call me, or they may find one of my colleagues' names and they may call them. Or you may go back, the next time you go back for an eye exam, you may say, hey, what I realized, doc, is that when I went back to my old glasses, things in the distance even got clearer. And you might say, what I've realized now, because I've talked to a neurodevelopmental, functional behavioral optometrist who practiced this for her whole career, and said that I can improve my eyesight even more, even at this age. And I may not need those bifocals or those progressive lenses or that eye surgery or that blah, 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 blah. She really said that, doc. And you'll have one of two responses, or obviously something anywhere in between, you might get, you're crazy, and
Right.
that's not possible.
Mm.
And, goodbye, which it doesn't sound like the eye doctor that you went to would have that response, because he was already open to the idea of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do when you're working with somebody like me, and you don't live in the same city or in the same vicinity, and you don't necessarily want to get on a train or a plane to come visit, what you want to do the next time you go back to your eye doctor is say, I want my vision, I want to continue on this journey of natural eyesight improvement. And this eye doctor said, how about reducing my prescription even more, even though your impulse is to give me something stronger? How about reduce it? How about if we reduce it even just one step more, like a quarter of a diopter, it's called?
Mm-hmm.
And how about if you give me a pair of computer glasses that are very specific to my computer? I understand they're going to blur things up a little bit more across the room. I'm not going to wear them for driving, especially at night. But what you may start to discover, Kimberly,
Mm-hmm.
is that your prescription starts going down rather than up.
Interesting.
And so this is your first lesson. This is the first lesson for, I may refer people to this podcast from now into eternity
Mm-hmm.
as an introduction to natural eyesight improvement, because now we've planted the seed. And guess what? Where is the health?
Mm.
Kimberly, what are your eyes telling you? What do your eyes want now?
Mm.
You've already started on the journey in a way that 90% or 95%, or I would venture to say 99.9% of the human population in Western civilization has never even thought about. This has never crossed their mind. This is why I am so passionate, not only about the eyeglass part. I was getting pretty technical here, but you asked me a very specific technical question about you. And that question that you asked me applies to a lot of people these days, especially after what we all went through globally between 2020 and 2023,
Mm.
because people were so attached to this near visual space, and so attached and so apart from socializing and moving and being in nature, that the
Mm-hmm.
incidence of myopia or nearsightedness it's an epidemic. It was an epidemic before, but now it's even more of an epidemic. And the truth of the matter is, we can go back to where we came from. We were not born, most of us, 99% of us were not born needing eyeglasses.
Right.
Our vision developed in utero and as we came through the womb and in our first year of life, in concert with our movement and our nutrition from our mother's breast or the bottle or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then we started to get a little bit mixed up because of what culture has fed us in terms of the food, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual dissonance. And that's what we're all working through right now. And so I'm thrilled that you said, oh, let's do this interview.
Mm-hmm.
We met. Tell people where we met.
So we met through the Vegan Business Tribe, which is an amazing organization for vegan business owners. And so I'm really excited to now be connected with you, and I'm so glad that we're both a part of that. But I want to know more about movement. How does movement have an impact on our eyes?
So I'm a developmental optometrist. I go by different names, but I'll say developmental. And if you can, well, you can't see, but Kimberly can see that there's a physio ball. There's like a
Mm-hmm.
big exercise ball behind me. And since I have the luxury of doing this interview and not being seen, I can play right now, and I can move my chair aside, and I can sit on my ball. So if you'll excuse me for a second, because the ball just rolled away. Kimberly can see I have one slipper on my foot, the other one's off. I was massaging my foot while we're doing this interview, and now I'm bouncing. Well, what does movement have to do with vision? Okay, so there's a sentence that I wrote in my book, and I'm going to say it to you out loud in the vision section. So the vision section is the first. I have a proof of the book right here. I should know how many chapters. I should know, but I'm going to open it to the table of contents. The first chapter is more of an introduction, but the vision section is chapter 2, 3, and 4. And we talk about exploring vision and then considering typical eye care through a wider lens, and a look at holistic vision care is like the vision section. Then we go into the movement section, which is the next 3 chapters. So chapter 5 is moving within. Chapter 6, which I was told to reduce the title of, and I didn't listen. You're going to see a few things like that if you decide to read my book, where it's like, wow, did she write that in this book? Why did that get edited out? It was because I didn't want it edited. I let them edit a lot out. They edited out so many exclamation points. I love to use exclamation points.
Me too.
Like 3 exclamation points after a sentence is standard. Those are almost all gone. Okay, chapter 6 is called Embodying Our Eyesight and Vision Through Experiential Embodied Movement as the Basis of Vision Development and Natural Eyesight Improvement. So that's chapter 6, and chapter 7 is called Connecting with Our Depth and Dimensionality Through Vision. So if you think about it, stabilize the sentence that I thought I told you I was going to say. Stabilized retinal images fade. So the retina is the back part of the eye. It's where the electronic impulses of light energy go to your brain and create this image in the back of your brain that's upside down, and then we write it up, and we see things right side up instead of upside down. And once we're born, we move and we develop we develop through our reflexes movement patterns with our feet. Think about this. With our feet, we have 2 feet. Hopefully we have 2 feet. Most of us have 2 feet. We have 2 legs. We have 2 arms, and we have 2 eyes. Now, the thing about our eyes is that we take for granted, most of us. My career has been working with people who didn't realize they weren't using their 2 eyes together as a team. So you know how sometimes you'll look at a person and one eye is looking at you, and the other eye might be looking somewhere else. And that is because they have not developed the ability to use their 2 eyes together.
Oh, wow.
And they don't have what's called binocular vision. So depth perception is the way to say it. So that person, for example, if they go to, and I've written about this in my book, if they go to a 3D movie and they put on those glasses, they're not going to see the, Spider-Man right in front of their face, because Spider-Man's going to be up against the screen and there might be 2 of them over there.
Oh.
We naturally, if we have developed through movement, especially in our first year of life, our ability to use the 2 sides of our body as one. And I've written about that at length in the movement section of my book. What is the movement underpinnings of visual development? And it is so important. Here's another hot tip for new mothers and for pregnant women or pregnant people. It is so important to continuously do your regular movement during pregnancy. And then once your child is born, place your baby on their belly, and get down on the floor with them and roll around with them and look at them in the eyes directly across from them. I've written these tips in my book as well. But I first learned developmental movement after optometry school through a woman named Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, who is now 82. She just turned 82 years old. And I was at a gym in, I probably shouldn't move away from the microphone of my computer, but I was going to demonstrate just for Kimberly's. I can do it after the interview's over, but there were all these physio balls all in this gym at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And we were just rolling on these balls, and we were restoking the developmental movement patterns that we all knew in birth and through the birth canal. We didn't know them if we were born by C-section. And so many babies who are born by C-section have developmental issues that can be worked with, even when you're an adult, and that's what I did for a career. I worked with people with the reflexes that underlie vision development. So when you come to my office, I do a regular eye exam, but then we're on the floor, and then I'm giving you activities, and I'm working with lenses and prisms to restoke your visual system. And those of us that are nearsighted, and I fall into that category, those of us that are farsighted, those of us that have astigmatism and all kinds of other visual issues have developmental movement issues, but it's unknown. And that's why we can improve our vision, because we can improve and reestablish these movement patterns that we have, for whatever reason, forgotten. And it's very easy to forget them when you're sitting in front of a computer all day and not rolling around on a ball or having a standing desk that, like, I just figured out to have like 2 months ago, but my book was done by then. I was still editing, but yeah, I don't know. That was a long, circuitous answer to your question, kind of.
What's one activity that you would recommend people do? Is it sitting on a ball and bouncing like you are, or
if that's comfortable for you, why not?
Mm-hmm.
If you've never done it before, don't sit on the ball all day if you've never done it before, but sit on the ball for 10 minutes and then bring your chair back.
Mm-hmm.
Get a standing desk. Take time to do what we did, that short meditation. Take your glasses off. Breathe, blink, and be present. That's my mantra. You'll see it printed in my book several times. The editor made me edit out about 4 or 6 of them I had scattered through the book. I insisted on keeping 2, but it's in big print. Blink, breathe, and be present. And if you haven't asked me this question yet, but when you do, I'll repeat it because it's worth repeating. For people that want to know about the book, they can go to my website, enliveningconsciousness.com/book, and go to the bottom of the page. Actually, it's the bottom of any page of my website. Sign up for my email list, and the autoresponder gives you a free gift. 2, actually. I consider them 2. One of them is a poster that I hand drew. It'll print out on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It's very simple. It says blink, breathe, and be present. So bring your blinking to conscious awareness. Do it now, Kimberly. Blink extra. Butterfly your eyelids, because it lubricates your eyes. More tears. It's like when you put the washer fluid on the in your car. It's dirty, and you need to put some more washer fluid there. And your eyelids, your eyelashes are the cleaning mechanism of your eyes, right? And when you blink more, you're stimulating your tears. So that's the blink part of the trio. And then breathe. Well, we did a little creative breathing visualization. Play that, play it over and over again. Kimberly would love for you to play her podcast.
Exactly.
And so would I, especially if it's this one. And then be present. Come back to your self and ask yourself, where is the health? And your body will give you so many answers. Your job is just to listen. Just to listen. And we're being given so much opportunity from the cosmos right now to listen to ourselves and to take the time to realign ourselves first, and the planet will follow. And I know that this is a podcast about veganism, or you're interviewing vegans. We didn't really talk much, about nutrition or nature, the spirit or anything like that. But the way that you hear me speak is the way that the book is written, which is why I drove my editor crazy, because she wanted everything to be all lined up logically. And I tell several stories throughout the book that weave all the sections together. And I got them as downloads while I was writing the book. Profound, there's a couple of very profound stories that helped me to understand through spirit why this book had to be written. And I understand now with 1,000% certainty why it was not released before spring of 2024. And when you read the book and you absorb it, I would so appreciate if you would reach out to me and tell me, I understand why. And because I read your book, I am going to do this. And it may be just one small step, but I would be just honored to work with anybody, who's listening to this. You, Kimberly, if your interest is piqued, and it may not be that you're contacting me tomorrow for consultation, because what I gave you here and what I'm giving your listeners here is a lot to digest if you've never heard it before. It's a whole lot. And so if it takes you a year to digest it, I get that. I used to see people often just once a year. But then when they would come into vision therapy, I don't have an active brick and mortar practice as of this moment, because I'm doing speaking and I'm teaching courses, online and in person, and I'm giving talks, but it's okay to not do everything at once. And what you've done, I will use you as an example, Kimberly, because I don't think you mind. And you just had your first vision therapy session. And the people that are listening to this podcast from start to finish had their first exposure to vision therapy. Why am I saying to you it was your first vision therapy session? Because this was pretty specific to you.
Yeah.
This was your story that I addressed directly.
Right.
And I gave you some direct information. It may not be ready. It may not be appropriate for somebody else who's listening to this. So that's my second disclaimer after the first one, not to ride off the road.
Right.
Don't necessarily go to your eye doctor and say, I listened to this eye doctor and she said I should reduce my prescription by a quarter of a diopter. I've been at this long enough that I've been on a Zoom call with you now for an hour. I can tell you that if the next time you go for an eye exam, you do what I just specifically advised. That's why I'm saying this is your, I'm still a licensed eye care professional. I'm going to be speaking. Okay. Is there time for me to tell this story about synchronicity?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I believe that as you improve your vision naturally through diet, and in the
I want to talk about that too. Yeah.
Okay. I recommend at this point to the lion's share of people I work with to step into the whole food plant-based lifestyle, and with movement, which I recommend. I teach a class on Wednesday mornings, 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You're welcome to join if you'd like. I can send you the information. It's all on my not my podcast. I had a podcast, but I don't now. It's still out there. It's called Journey Through Health and Wellness. But if you go to my website, I have a blog. It's not very developed at the moment, but on the blog, it's my website /blog. You can get enough detail to have an idea of what the class is. It's a very gentle class. It's so gentle. We spend most of the time on the floor. It's a lot of breath awareness, but the underlying theme of it is natural eyesight improvement, although you wouldn't know it unless you knew it. But go outside. I go outside every day.
Me too.
I open my window when the sun comes out, and I just do some sunning with my eyelids closed. I let the sun hit my skin. When I can, I go barefoot, even when it's cold outside, for just a short time. Connecting with yourself. So the blink, breathe, be present. Being present with yourself multiple times a day. These are all techniques for natural eyesight improvement. The fine tuning of it with optometric vision therapy, with lens, shifting lens prescriptions and that sort of thing is more advanced, and so you've already had a more advanced lesson, and I think many people will benefit from listening to this podcast. What was your question? I don't think I answered the question.
Oh, well, I wanted to talk about the nutrition piece. So we talked about movement and how that's important. And then you also have the nutrition piece and the spiritual piece. So if we could talk through those two, at least on a high level, we want to be mindful of time. But yeah.
Nutrition and spirit. So, okay, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with spirit.
Yeah.
As we are aligned, spirit works through us. You might say God, you might say Christ consciousness, you might say Hashem if you're Jewish, you might say Buddha, you might say Allah. I don't know what it is, but it's working. I believe it's all the same. I consider myself a modern living Essene, but it works through us as we get out of the way. And a concrete example of that is I was invited to speak at an optometry conference in San Francisco. And by the time you're hearing this, I will probably already have spoken, but it's in April of 2024 in San Francisco. And this had been planned for months, months and months and months. And I'm writing this book, and I'm not allowed to talk about my book at the professional conference because it's a continuing education situation, and you're not allowed to promote your book when you're doing that sort of thing with your professional colleagues. Okay. But I thought, I'm getting on a plane. I live in southwestern PA. I'm going to San Francisco. I want to do a book event because my book's going to be out in April of 2024. And what can I do? So there's some ladies in my relaxing, rejuvenating, restorative movement class that I teach on Wednesday mornings. They said, oh, and they're from the Bay Area. There's people from all over the world that take my classes because it's on Zoom. They said, oh, there's this independent bookstore and it's called Book Passage. And you ought to call them, but don't get your hopes up because there's only 2 bookstores. One's in San Francisco, one's across the bridge north of San Francisco, and don't get your hopes up because they're very popular and they're scheduled way ahead and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, what do I have to lose? Nothing. So I called them. I couldn't believe it. They scheduled me in. So if this podcast comes out in time, and this is epic for me. I mean, this is okay, but that's not even the synchronistic part that I want to tell you about. Here's the punchline. I'm going to be at a hotel. If you're in San Francisco and you hear this, the week of April 10th, I'm going to be at a hotel in San Francisco called the Hyatt Embarcadero. Where do you think this bookstore is in San Francisco?
Is it right there, like next to the hotel?
It's across the street.
Oh, amazing.
Across the street in the Ferry Building in San Francisco. Like, okay, this is what I call, in Yiddish, there's an expression, beshert. That means it was meant to be. And when your life starts to flow in this way, I'm not always this upbeat, this high. I am high on life. I teach people how to be high on life. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't eat hallucinogenic mushrooms. I think mushrooms are great. I sprout. I teach people how to do countertop sprouting. But the free giveaways, by the way, on my website, the autoresponder is the breathe, blink, and be present, but also you'll get a free short meditation. So you might repeat this one, play this podcast over and over again. You might need time to absorb this teaching. because for me, it flows off my tongue. It comes from my heart
Mhm.
and it pours forth because this has been my life practice, you
Yeah.
know, but if you're hearing it for the first time, you could just, it could just blow you away, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because your cells, you don't have to understand it all at once. Your cells will receive it, and it will
Mhm.
be. So nature, get out into nature. When I went in 2015, he wrote a book, I think if you haven't read it, you ought to. It's called Spiritual Nutrition. It blew my mind. It blew my mind the first time I read it, and the second time, and the third time, and the fifth time. And I still haven't read it cover to cover because it's mind-boggling. But I think that my book, and perhaps this hour, was mind-boggling to you, or not just, I don't mean you, I mean the audience. But amplify that. And that's who Gabriel Cousens is. And he talks about, these different scientific studies. He's a psychiatrist by training, but he's so many things. He's a shaman. He's a rabbi. He's an Indian dancer. He's a I think he's like a living legend. I mean, he runs spiritual juice feasting fasts. I did every one of them up through COVID, up until I skipped the last one because I thought I'm clean now. I mean, I needed a break from my cleanliness. And it's funny because today I've been on a chocolate binging situation because this book, okay, this is dating this a little bit, but the book's just about to be published. And this past week has been crazy, crazy. And I've been eating too much chocolate, and sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Okay, I don't do cocaine, but I do sugar. And I've gone through detox 3 times in my life, several times with him, with those juice feasts. So I didn't eat chocolate all day today, but right before this interview, I caved. I was just like, I can't, like, I have to just have one little piece of chocolate. But yeah, so that I think wraps it, like,
Mhm.
in terms of spirit. We are spiritual beings. We are the health.
Mhm.
Allow the health to pour through you, and you are an angel. Kimberly, you're right in front of me, so I have to use you as an example. You're bringing together all of these incredible vegan spirits to
Mhm.
tell their story, and you're so, I'm blabbering away. You barely got a word in edgewise. You're such a good listener. Not only that, you're an integrator. You've integrated what I've said. And I want you to know that you have helped so many people that have worn eyeglasses for longer than they wanted to, who have stronger eyeglasses than they need. And just that knowingness, you're offering like a gift. It's a gift to humanity. And so thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa, this has been fascinating, and I'm walking away with questions and lots of things to look up. Very much looking forward to your book. All of the links for your website and your book, once it's ready, will be in the show notes so people can click right into it. But I've got one more question for you. Tell me about your favorite hummus, your favorite way to eat hummus, or possibly a story about hummus.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to share it's just a very short thing about hummus. So in our house, we have a designated hummus creator. And that creator is our daughter, Laura. And I was telling my husband and daughter at dinner time, I said, I'm going to be asked at the end to tell a story about hummus. And I said, I'm going to talk about Laura. And the way I told it, both my husband and Laura just said, oh, that you can't, no, tell this. And they told the same story. It's about Laura making the hummus all the time, but they told it a different way. So I'll tell a few different angles of it. So Laura pipes up and she said, this is tonight. She pipes up and she says, yeah, when you want me to make hummus, you soak the hummus, you soak the chickpeas, you sprout them overnight and you rinse them and then you cook them. And then it's like a clue. You want me to make hummus. So that's what happens in our house. And it's true. My husband does it sometimes I'll do it. But one time, this was the story I told, and they said, they nixed it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I said, Well, Laura, do you remember the time that I literally asked you to make hummus? I said, make hummus for dinner tonight. And she said, okay, and so we soaked the chickpeas, but then when she got home from work, I hadn't cooked them. We didn't cook you can't cook chickpeas in like 5 minutes and make hummus for dinner. You have to have cooked chickpeas. So yeah, that's it.
I love it. I love that Laura is the designated hummus maker.
Well,
That is the best title.
She's really good, and she uses the food processor, which I'm really not good at, and she puts in just the right amount of tahini. And there's a lot of my husband's family was in the grocery business. There's a lot of conversation in our house about food, and now about vegan food, and about the way that things taste. When you become whole food plant-based, or especially a raw living foodist, you can taste the difference between organic food and you can taste the energy of sprouts, and you can feel it in your body. And that's where the spirit, you clear your mind, and then the synchronicities.
Elisa, thank you so, so much. I am so grateful for this time that we've spent together. And I know that I have learned, like I said, so much, and the listeners will as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome back. What is your biggest takeaway? What are your eyes telling you? To connect with Dr. Elisa, visit her website, enliveningconsciousness.com. Find her on Instagram at EmbodyVision, on Facebook at Dr. Elisa B, ELISABE, and also her vegan spirituality group on Facebook at Vegan Spirituality SWPA. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're loving it, please give Did You Bring the Hummus a 5-star rating and leave a review. It's an easy way to keep supporting the show. Be sure to share these episodes with your friends. If you are finding something good here, they will too. If you're a vegan or know a vegan who would be a great fit for the podcast, follow the Be a Guest link in the show notes. Fill out the quiz, and I'll be in touch. Get on my mailing list and grab 3 super fun and easy recipes as a thank you. Don't forget, if you love the podcast and would enjoy a shout out from me on a future episode, or how about time to connect virtually with me and other listeners, check out the show notes for the link. And if you're a vegan business who would like to sponsor episodes of Did You Bring the Hummus, I'd love to chat. You'll find the info in the show notes for that too. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Did You Bring the Hummus, and visit my website, didyouBringTheHummus.com, for more information about me, updates on what I'm working on, new podcast episodes, and all things vegan. Finally, I would love to hear from you. What do you need help with? Is there a topic you want to hear covered on a future episode? DM me on Instagram or send me an email at info@didyouBringTheHummus.com. Thanks for listening.